Hello, welcome to this short video version of my presentation to all staff at the college academic staff meeting on the 6th of June 2023. I'm going to outline some guidelines on how we're going to use the file storage element of Teams going forward. So there are two sets of principles to establish before we look at the practicalities. The first is the difference between Teams and OneDrive. So all our files are stored now in Teams or OneDrive. Even if you store stuff on the desktop or in the documents folder on your laptop, they are actually all stored in OneDrive. And that's fine. But OneDrive is for you and you only, and you should assume that its contents are going to be deleted when you leave. So if it's entirely concerning you, or if it's ephemeral, by all means put it in OneDrive. But Teams is for the school. And by that I mean the school as an institution. So anything like schemes of work, pupil work, resources you create, minutes of meetings, anything you think should be around after you leave should be in a team and not on OneDrive. There's also a question then, this is the second principle, of what is a team? So when I say that you should put that document in a team, what is a team? How do you know which team to put it into? We'll look at that in a moment. But first of all, here is what a team is. It's a department, a class, a co-curricular activity, a discrete group of people that is consistently the same over a long period of time. In the case of a class, it's created automatically for you at the beginning of the year. Department probably already exists. Co-curricular activities, many won't need a team. Indeed, probably most won't need a team. But if they do, then that definitely falls into the definition of a team. However, on the other hand, a topic, a meeting, whether it's a single meeting or one that happens on a weekly basis, or worst case, an individual file, these do not count as teams. They are not groups of people, so don't create a team for them. So, in what circumstances can you create a team? Well, we're not going to start policing team creation and deleting things without telling you if we don't think it meets the criteria of what a team should be. But there probably needs to be overall a little bit more thought into the creation, put into the creation of teams than there has been up until now. So here are three things to consider before you create a team. One, if the group of people who you want to see the document or engage in the collaboration activity, whatever it is already, if that group's already in a team, then use that team. Don't create another one for it. If there is already a team which has that group of people and more in it, create a private channel in the team that already exists. And the third question is, should it be shared in teams at all? If it's ephemeral or it involves only you and one other person, it doesn't need to outlast you, it's not confidential in any way, just don't share it in teams. Just don't put it in teams. And certainly don't create a team to share that one document. Why can't we just do whatever we like on Teams? Why do we have to have a system? Why do we have to have a set of guidelines? Well, briefly, Teams at Stonyhurst has become unwieldy. There are more than 5,000 teams. Most actually, I'll show you the stats later, are underused. And that's probably in part because the people who created them can't find them because there are so many teams that they are a member of. On the screen here, I've got some real examples of duplication. Each column is from one subject. So the leftmost column, let's imagine we teach the Hungarian language at Stonyhurst. These 5 teams exist for that one subject. Real examples. Hungarian 2022 to 2023. Hungarian team. Hungarian inset, and Hungarian sessions 21 to 22. So if you're looking for the details of the new Hungarian GCSE course or the training that you went on to teach it, which team do you look in? It could be any of those 5. And the same goes for the next 2 columns as well. You can see that people have tried to to categorize the information, but actually they've categorized it in such a way there's a lot of unclearness about which team a particular bit of information might be in, and also where it is clear, there's quite a lot of overlap. So on the right hand side, for example, let's imagine it's Hungarian again. You've got Hungarian, Hungarian grammar, Hungarian syntax, Hungarian meetings, staff Hungarian, and Stonyhurst Hungarian. So if you had a meeting about the new GCSE course, which of those 7 teams is it in? You know it's not in the lower grammar, so that's a win. And so there are 2 reasons that we need to have a tidy up. We need to do it now because there's lots of information there that we can't find now in amongst all of the dormant teams. It's difficult to know where to look to find something, and Teams is starting to look as bad as the old W drive. We also need to do this for the future because a lot of this information we'll need it next year and the year after that and so on. We're not going to be reinventing the wheel with new systems on a rolling basis. We have moved from the W drive to Teams, and that's where we're staying. So we need to start using it like a carefully organized filing cabinet rather than an archaeologically layered pile on a messy desk. So I've got 3 examples of do's and don'ts, and then I'll wrap up by giving you a sort of call to action. So here's do number 1. Do use class teams. Each class code from the timetable has its own automatically created team with files, grades, assignments, insights, class notebook, but you can also create your own if that's more suitable. And I've given a use case example on the screen there for you. You could also create teams for other groups of pupils who need access to common materials and will be consistently the same group over the year. So a good example, a real example, is the Rhetoric 2023 Extended Essay team. A lot of co-curricular activities would also meet these criteria. The third do is do create channels or perhaps teams for discrete and consistent groups of staff. So if you have a working party on improving boarding duty routines, you might need somewhere to store your documents, to have some online chat, that sort of thing. But all of those people will probably already be a member of another team, whether it's an all-staff team or a boarding team or something like that. So create a private channel in that team and invite the relevant staff to that channel rather than creating a whole new team for it. My second example there, you could either do it as 3 separate channels or within an existing team, or create a new team with 3 channels in it. If you are going to have training in each of the 3 terms on an aspect of SEND, or indeed anything, there are going to be groups of training for different people, 3 separate cohorts. Then you could have one team with a common file storage area in the general channel, but then separate private channels for the discussion element. And for those of you who are attending my Microsoft Educator course, that's the sort of way in which you can facilitate the Socratic contributions that we discussed during our session Teach Forward yesterday. Here's some don'ts. Don't create an additional team if all the people who will access that team are already in a team together. So let's say 3 members of your department are working on rewriting the IB scheme of work. They need somewhere to save their documents. They need somewhere to have a chat. Don't create a separate team for that. Create a private channel in the team you already have for your department. That's where it should be done. Another don't. Don't create a team to share a single document. If the document belongs to you and is ephemeral, share it from OneDrive or from Word or Excel or PowerPoint where you created it. If it belongs to a team, make sure it's in the team associated with that group of people and then share it from there. So if you need to share a list of pupils going on a trip and you already have it in the relevant team, but you're now distributing it more widely, including beyond the membership of the team, then just share it from there. Go to the Files tab, there's an option to share a file from there, and you can include people who are not members of the team in that from Teams. And the final don't make teams with incomprehensible names. There are about 70 teams called parental consultations with no qualifiers, and another 10, 15 that are called parental consultation, and many more that include the word parental consultations in there but without a date. So if you wanted to find some information about your parental consultations, you really couldn't do that because there are so many teams you need to look through. Teams is for the institution, not the individual. So think ahead 5 years, and to your successor's line manager, will they understand the purpose of your team from its name? Test, dummy class, new course. These are all other examples of team names that are not specific enough. So even if you do need to create the team, which many of these you don't really need to, you need to title it in such a way that people know what it is who aren't in it yet, who can't ask you in however many years in the future why you entitled it like you did, or where to find a particular piece of information. The reality is that the vast majority of teams are simply not used, and they just clutter up everyone's team's homepage, and we need to work together to eliminate this. There's a certain amount we can do from the admin side. We can look at, for example, expired class teams and archive them. We can look at teams that are owned only by people who are no longer at Stonyhurst, and we can archive them. But that's not going to solve problems for there's a stubborn 500 or so teams, which many people are a member of, which are just not used. Of the teams we have at Stonyhurst, only 1,000 we used last term. That's 18% of them, last half term. And most of them haven't been used this academic year. Many of them haven't been used at all. And the majority, but by no means all of these, are teams that were automatically created where there might be duplicate class codes. And we can deal with those quite easily, but it's still going to clutter up lots of people's home pages unless we all sort of hold each other to account. So look at your list of teams. If you own an unnecessary team, delete it. If you're a member of an unnecessary team, ask the owner to delete it. And let's try and keep each other honest on this. If you have any queries about particular teams, whether you think you're using data, you're storing data in the best way or not, please do get in touch with me. I'm very happy to answer questions. Otherwise, that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for going through your list of teams and getting rid of things that you don't want. Thank you very much too for those people who have been happy to talk to me about their use of Teams as I prepared this presentation. So that's it from me. I hope you have a great final half term of the academic year.